Hi, it's Grace. Welcome or welcome back to Emposia's channel. Today I want to share with you 5 dystopian novels that just feel a little bit too close to home. These aren't like the scary horror novels with serial killers and gratuitous violence and monsters. You might not think you're scared, but by the end of it, you will realize the worlds these authors have created are maybe not as far away from ours as we would like to think. So not all of these books are like really obviously scary. One of them is actually one of my favorite books of all time. I'll talk about that one at the end. So yeah, you might think you can handle them, but we will see. So the first book that I want to recommend is Little Eyes by Samanta Schweblin. And we follow a series of characters and their Kentukis. So what are Kentukis? Well, they're these little robot creatures like this that look like little furry animal toys, but they are robots who are controlled by another person somewhere in the world. So you pay to control a Kentuki or you buy a Kentuki and you have no idea who the person on the other side is that is remote controlling it around your house, that's looking at you through the webcam, and who you're basically treating like a pet that you spend your life with. We follow a lot of different characters, a lot of their different experiences. Some of them go okay, a lot of them don't. The book is really smart in the way that it slowly reveals how off and creepy these power dynamics can get, both in terms of who are you letting watch you or watch your child all day? Who is behind that webcam and what are they doing? But then also, what does it do to a person when they have this little creature that follows them around all day that they can treat however they want, but that has a human at the other end of it? And if I wasn't scared of robots before, I really am now. And this doesn't feel too far away. You can imagine these kind of robots, this kind of new social media coming around soon. If you're watching this video in 5 years, comment below if it's a thing yet. The next dystopia that really did freak me out is Tender is the Flesh by Augustina Bazterrica. So this is a dystopian world not too far in the future where humans are unable to eat animal meat anymore because of some virus that has infected them all. And so their solution is they're just gonna start farming humans for meat instead. So we're following a main character who works at one of the meat plants, but it's human meat. This book genuinely did make me feel quite sick, but in the best way. Again, it's looking at a really uneasy power dynamic about this guy who is just doing his job. This is the way the world works now, but then also every day he is being confronted with humans being slaughtered like animals. It's a really short book, which is probably for the best. I don't think I could have handled any more of that, but it has some absolutely amazing twists in those short pages. And in a time where we are thinking a lot about consuming less meat, but our reliance on meat, it was too much for me to think about how close this really might be. But yeah, you'll honestly not see where this story goes. It is incredible. The next book to recommend is The Farm by Joanne Ramos. This is probably initially the least dystopian feeling, but the one that is one of the most scary in terms of the potential. So we're following a young Filipino woman who is living in America, struggling for money, and so takes up an offer to go to the farm, which is basically kind of like a luxury hotel for pregnant women, only the child that you're having is not yours and you will not be allowed to keep it. Really rich people who struggle with fertility issues will pay you and will pay the farm to impregnate you with their child and keep you there until you have the baby and you get loads of money. Sounds great, but obviously these people are paying a lot of money for their child, and so they have very particular ideas about how they want their child to be treated, even when it is inside the pregnant woman. What begins as a tempting way to make a lot of money and stay in this beautiful place soon becomes more and more of a prison for these women who are monitored 24/7 and who ultimately start to have little to no control over their own bodies. I'm sure I don't even need to say how pertinent a lot of these issues are in the world right now. As I say, this is one of the most scary because it feels the closest impossibility, but it's a really interesting look at motherhood, at the kind of commodification of pregnancy and issues around like control over your own body. I would highly recommend it. Maybe just read it with the lights on. Another brilliant dystopia that I read recently is Leave the World Behind by Rumaan. This one is clever because you don't even really know if it's going to be a dystopia. Even after I finished it, I was like, what's happening here? Basically, this family go to a house to stay for a week on holiday, kind of like a rental place. And then as they're there, this couple turn up and say that they own the house and there's been a power cut in New York City. They just rushed out, came to the house, and can they stay there? So immediately we're like, are you really the owners of the house? And then as they spend this time together, these strangers forced to live in close proximity, which is one of my favorite tropes and I think something that makes books so tense, they start to realize that yes, the outside world does seem to be showing signs of strange things going on. I don't want to say any more because I really think you need to let every surprise take you, but let's just say the end of this book made me feel terrified. Literal existential crisis, but in the best way. I still think you should read it. It's so slow burn, so character focused and well written, but also by the end of it, I was very frightened. And then finally, as I mentioned, one of my favorite books of all time and a book that I recommend to absolutely everyone is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is another one where I don't really want to tell you exactly what the dystopia is. I think that's something you have to find out by yourself. But basically we're following a group of teenagers who attend this boarding school called Hailsham, which is very beautiful in the English countryside. They're given a lot of attention at this school, but they're also given kind of weird lessons. And the more you read, you realize it's not actually a school that feels particularly familiar to us. There's definitely something going on here. Why are these kids different? Why are they strange? What does their future hold for them? And as you find out, it is heartbreaking. It brings up so many interesting questions around what it means to be human and how dark the world could get when everything revolves around kind of money and inequality. But it's also a beautiful story about friendship, about love. It's beautifully written. Like I say, it's one of my favorite books. I recommend it to everyone. And although it'll make you think about some quite unnerving things, it's also just a really great book. Thanks so much for watching. I'd love to know what the most scared by a book you've been. Was it monsters and aliens? Or was it something a little bit more close to home? Please do let us know in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.